This is the plaintiff, Felix Gonzalez. He says he hired the defendant to install a chimney in his house. The guy never got a permit, and he received a summons from the Department of Buildings because the chimney's now in violation. He's now scrambling to get the proper certifications. It's gonna cost him big bucks, and he's suing the defendant for $4,999 because the inept guy is responsible. This is the defendant, John Ramboli. He says he told the plaintiff he could do the work, but it would be up to him to hire an architect and secure the proper permits. 4 years later, he comes to find out the plaintiff did none of the above, and any problems the plaintiff's now having, it's not on him, it's on the plaintiff. He's accused of blowing smoke.
All parties, please raise your right hand.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case of the docket, the plaintiff hired the defendant to install a chimney, and it's in total violation of the building code. But the defendant says it was the plaintiff's job to get the proper permits. It's the case of chimney jump.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're
Felix
welcome,
Gonzalez, you are suing Rambali Incorporated, represented here by Naranjan Rambali.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, for $4,999. The amounts that you had to pay the city in fines, architecture fees, permitting fees, and a little extra for aggravation for you, because as it turns out, work he did for you required a permit. How did you meet Mr. Rambali? How did you first learn about him and what he does?
4 years ago, I went through a magic service referral online.
Okay.
And I was given 3 chimney specialists with license.
Okay. So you found him to do the chimney. And do you have the paperwork from the original transaction with him?
Yes, Your Honor.
May I see it?
Yes.
Okay. So the scope of the work was chimney rebuilt from the roof up, obstruction removed, smoke pipes installed for $2,500.
Yes.
Okay. Was there any permitting involved?
No.
Did you know that you need a permit to do this kind of work
No,
from the
ma'am.
city?
No, Your Honor.
Did the two of you discuss that?
I believe I asked, do I need a permit for this?
And?
The answer was no.
So what happens? How does this all come to light? Because if you didn't get caught while it was getting done, and why would you think that you don't need a permit for such a thing? I mean, of course you need a permit. If you a simple call to the county or the city would have told you that. But all right, if you didn't get caught when it was being done, how does it 5 years later that it happens?
I just walked up, came home from work back in April this year, and there was a notice taped to my front gate from a notice of violation and hearing date.
Can I see it?
Yes.
So do you contact him and say, hey, what's going on?
Yes. He says I have to contact my architect. And he basically said he'd get back to me. I started looking for architects, and I spoke to 4 of them, trying to get a ballpark figure on the cost.
Because now the city is making you.
Well, I'm trying to work with the...
What city is this? In Queens. Okay, so now the city is making you retroactively get architectural plans and prove that it's in compliance and everything else.
Yes,
Okay.
Your Honor.
So?
Well, the violation gives you a cure date, and a week after that, there's a hearing date, which is done with the Environmental Control Board. They assess their own fines, which can be $2,500. If you satisfy the cure date, then
They go easy on you.
That piece of the penalty gets removed.
Okay, so you're out the architect fees, which are $4,000, the permitting fees, and the fine. I mean, so the real thing, all these are fees that you would have had to pay if you did it right the first time, right? Because it's like you're in New York City. You pretty much know you need a permit for this kind of thing. So the thing that you're really out is that fine of $520. I'm still at a loss, though, because I don't see how they come up with this 4 years later. You know, what's going on?
Your Honor, as far as what I understand, he reported his neighbor. His neighbor did some work for him in his building next to his house, and he reported his neighbor to the Department of Building. So
And then
when
the neighbor reported him back?
Then the neighbor
Did
reported
that
him.
happen?
That event, calling the neighbor, was 4 years ago, or 3 years ago. And
How did you hear that? How did you know about that?
I introduced him to an architect. The architect went and spoke to him, and he told the architect.
Oh, he told the architect
Yes.
that, this happened because I dimed out my neighbor, so my neighbor dimed me back. And, well, that'll teach you.
That's right, sir.
You talk about like
That was-
throwing stones in glass houses, man.
So whose job is it to get the proper permits? The contractor or the homeowner?
The contractor. I think it's what he does every day, and he knows what to do. So
What do you think?
he doesn't speak.
He doesn't speak English. What do you think?
Neither does he.
Okay, what do you think?
I think it's the contract. He knows where to go and who to see, and he can do it a lot quicker.
Okay, going inside the courtroom.
the issue is, it was a quality of life. He was building a staircase next to my house to go to the third floor. And he had basically turned a two-family home into a hotel, SRO.
Okay.
And obviously I was not happy with that.
So maybe it was worth it. I don't know. First of all, by the way, I didn't really let you speak. Did you guys talk about permitting at the time?
Yes, we did, ma'am.
You did?
Yes.
And what was the discussion?
When I went there on August of 2008, I even mentioned to him, anytime you're doing any changes to your building, DOB has to be notified and a permit has to be filed. He asked me for an architect. I said, look, I will give you an architect, right? But he said, you don't have the money. It will cost you like about $4,000 only to file it with DOB.
The DOB being the Department of Buildings.
Right.
So $4,000 to get an architect to file plans.
That's correct.
Okay, and this is
Right?
all a discussion at the time of the transaction.
Absolutely.
Go on.
Right? He said he don't have the amount of money to install a metal chimney. Do whatever you got to do, $2,500. When he has the money later on, he will think about calling an architect to do the job.
Wait,
So-
but calling an architect to do what job?
The
job you're doing?
To do a blueprint.
Right, but the permitting and the architect is something that's supposed to precede your work.
Well, I mean, at that time, the money I charged him to do the job, that didn't include no architect and
Yes,
stuff.
I know exactly. I know exactly. What do you think, I'm stupid? I know exactly what it is. It's cheaper for you to try to go on the sly, and you want the money, so you don't care about going on the sly. Are you a licensed contractor?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're jeopardizing your license doing unpermitted work.
Well, I asked.
Yeah, well, okay. All right. And then you have connected brain cells, right? Your brain cells just aren't flapping in the wind. You live in New York City. You think Queens doesn't require a permit to do this? I think you know that.
I do not.
So, oh, please.
I do
and
not,
if you
Your
don't,
Honor.
that's on you. All right? So what is the theory here of why he needs to buy you an architect and permitting?
When I went through the referral service and I checked with not just Mr. Romali, no one spoke of a
Mr.
I needed a
Gonzalez, I
permit
want you to
here.
answer the question.
I'm
I
not
want you to think,
hiding-
wait, because I want to go. I could understand if you came here and sued over $520 in penalties. But that's not what you're doing. What you're doing, because you're greedy, is you're suing for $5,000. You want a court of law to say you need to buy him an architect. On what legal theory would he need to buy you an architect?
I learned this after the
Okay,
fact.
it doesn't matter. Even if he hadn't told you about it, the bottom line is, if it had been done right, you would be paying it. Not him would be paying it, you would be paying it. So really what it boils down to is the fine. And for you to win from him the fine, I would have to buy that he snookered you. Except for the problem is that if I find that what really happened is that y'all discuss it and decide to try to fly under the radar, both of you, then I can't really make him pay the penalty either. And I think that's what happened. I find in favor of the defendant in this case.
Well, Judge Milian heard all she needs to hear and rules for the defendant. What's your feeling coming out here with nothing?
I find this very disappointing. I felt that it was twisted, and my knowledge on this issue of needing a permit, I didn't know about that at the time.
Well, ignorance of the law is no argument.
But I went to an expert, should have informed me that this was required. Just like an electrician or a plumber, they will not do work without a proper permit. This should have been the same case. Thank you.
Right this way, okay? Right this way. All right, step on in here. Judge rules in your favor, so what's your thought coming out of here?
Actually, I don't have any comments, sir.
Why not? Why not? It looked like you two were sort of in this thing together.
No, well, I charge him a price to do a job, and he's suing me for X amount of dollars. I don't think it's fair, and he's looking for $5,000 from me now. It's ridiculous.
All right.
Over to Harvey.
So in a sense here, both litigants had, as we call it in the law, unclean hands. They were both dirty because they knew this job was being done without permits. In a situation like that, one person can't go in and say the other person defrauded me. They were both dirty from the get-go, and as a result of that, plaintiff gets nothing.